everybody, and welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this is Wine Library TV. And today's topic for the boys and girls out there is Super Tuscan Reds. Super Tuscan wines are very intriguing. We're going to get into all the little history of them in one quick second. I've got some great wines here. I'm super excited about tasting them, and we're going to dive into them head first. But first, I just want to say something about the Vayniac wristbands. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people have submitted for their free wristband, but I bought thousands and thousands to cover the entire Vayner Nation. So don't be shy, and I know there's no way you can think that wristbands are not cool. Please submit your name. I'm going to throw a link up one last time because I don't want them laying around here because I might just, put them all on my head or do something weird with them. So, link here. Don't be bashful. A couple people emailed me and said, I don't want to waste your postage or I don't want to take something for free. Take it. It's here for you. Also, I want to talk about a very big thing to me, something that means a whole lot to me. And it's something that I call the WLTV Forum Welcome Party. I'm throwing out a big shout out to Justin and Steve B, Mary S, SoCal, Rich S, Leather Palette, all you guys, and there's a million people, and please don't email me and say I'm a jerk off, keep doing it. When people are introducing themselves on the Wine Library TV forum, it's really nice to see the community embracing and saying hello to people, not that it's a empty introduction. It warms my heart, and it's really nice, and I think it's a big deal that I have to thank you for that, because obviously I'm so busy and I can't welcome everybody that's coming to the forums, and you guys do an amazing job and make it very warm, fuzzy, and, what do we think about, Eric? Rainbows and unicorns and little leprechauns running around with umbrellas filled with Skittles. I mean, it's just a nice, warm feeling, and I appreciate you guys doing that. It means a lot to me. I really want you to know that. Other than that, one big tasting note that got thrown out yesterday that I'm going to steal, and I feel sad that I'm going to steal it, but I have to use it, and it's dead on with a lot of wines, is asparagus pee-pee. That's right, when you eat asparagus and then you pee-pee, the smell is potent, the color is intriguing, and so for that reason, I will be using that term. Great job to the two people that threw that out there. I'm sorry I didn't catch the names, because when you're going through 3,000 email a day, it's kind of tough to catch everything, but great tasting note, definitely great job, and I appreciate that, and I will be using it. Super Tuscan wines. In the late 70s, a lot of people in Italy, a lot of the owners decided they needed to make their wines a little more intriguing. The laws were kind of keeping them in a certain umbrella. They needed to be outside the box. They kind of wanted to change the establishment, break the rules a little bit. And, so the DOC and the DOCG rules of Italy, the governing body of what you could call a Chianti or anything of that nature, were really tough on these winemakers because they wanted to make wines with a little bit more profound body weight, and what they really wanted to do was experiment with Bordeaux varietals, Cabernet, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, not allowed by the laws. And so what did they do? A couple of brave people, and Sassicaia being the first Super Tuscan, and then a couple years later, Tignanello making the second and probably the more important, in a way, Super Tuscan, because that was the big Antinori family that really got a lot of people to start focusing on this trend. They broke the rules. They started using Cabernet and other things, and they had to classify their wines. And you have to understand, this was a very different time in the wine world. Pre-Parker, pre-Wine Spectator, where your classification meant a whole lot. So if you were a DOC or DOCG, people thought your wine was better. They had to mark their wines because they broke the rules. And you know what I think about the wine rules. So obviously I'm proud of these people. By breaking the rules, and Tom Choco, who writes a great blog, Terroir, for us. I'm going to throw a link up there. We need to give Tom Choco, if you're looking for a great, blog to read about wine, terroir.winelibrary.com. I'm going to throw a link up here, written by our Tom Choco, is fantastic read. And he's a lot more serious and interesting and better than I am. So, he might be mad at what I'm about to say, because he's more of a traditionalist, but they wanted to make better wines, and they broke the rules, and they had to mark their wines as vino da tavola, which means table wine. And, their wines would, Tignanello would say VDT, and they would be 10 to 15 times the price of the normal VDT at the time. So VDTs were $2, $3 wines, and here were these $30 wines that, And it was just, it was tough because they didn't have the 95-point score to go against, or the critics or anything else. It was really classification city ruled the world back then. And so it was a very risky maneuver. And sometimes you got to risk and go outside the bounds and color outside the lines sometimes, and it paid off. It started a very big trend, and now Super Tuscans are some of the most, if not the most, sought-after wines in all of Italy. And not only that, to show how much strength they had, not too long ago, within the last decade, the Italian governing body created a new classification, the IGT, which was a way for the higher-end Super Tuscans to be classified under these rules. A little too late, Italian government. Back up. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Most of the people watching here, Wine Library TV, for example, have no idea what IGT, DOC, DOCG, TDV, MTV. Who gives a crap's ass? But what matters is the juice in the bottle, and the juice in the bottle was profound, and because of that, they broke through. So today we're going to taste 4 wines that are Super Tuscans, and we're going to see just how super they are. Wine number 1, Luce, 2003. This is a blend of 50% Sangiovese and 50% Merlot, and the Luce was started by the Frescobaldi family and the Mondavi family back in 1993, I think. Again, 50 Merlot and 50 Sangiovese. Now, obviously, the Mondavi family has sold their company, in theory, their family business, to Constellation Brands, and the Frescobaldi family has taken over full control, I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive, of this wine. This is the 2003 vintage again. It's an IGT classified. It is 92 points Wine Spectator, and it is $60 US. And in past vintages, 97, 2001, I've loved it. In 99, 98, 2000, 2002, 96, I have not liked it. This has been a very controversial wine for me. So let's see where the 03 lies. Again, 92 points, 60 bones. Super duper califragilistic color, so we respect them on that. The color is extremely dark. Merlot and Sangiovese really should not be able to compete and produce this kind of color. But, maybe they're throwing some dye, watercoloring in there. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's give it a whirl. I said 93 was the first vintage. I'm starting to rescind that. I think 95 might have been the first vintage. But once again, when you're shooting from the hip, you sometimes make some mistakes, so I apologize. Good nose, very perfumey. I'm getting a clear-cut example of walking through Saks Fifth Avenue and just getting a combination of all those different, and those ladies are like, pss, pss, luckily I dodged them because first, I'm not really the demo they're looking for to sell the perfume to, but also because I'm really a great little dodger when I walk through the mall. Anyway, great perfume aspect coming through. Really nice cola aspect as well. A little Coca-Cola action, but almost like the fake Coca-Cola. And what I mean by that is, have you ever had the candies that were supposed to be Coca-Cola flavor? Remember the soda pop candies? They were from May of 83 to June of 84, and they were dead. And it kind of supposed to, or the scratch and sniff, I always go there. It's Coca-Cola, but it's not really. It's just that fake cola smell. I'm getting a lot of that mixed in with the perfuminess. Very nice mouthfeel, great structure, great black currant flavor coming through on the finish. I'm getting a little bit of, what is it? It's almost like an oregano kind of flavor coming through on the mid palate to the finish, which is quite intriguing. What kind of alcohol is this? This is really extremely well balanced of a wine, and I'm quite shocked. Aren't they supposed to put the alcohol in these goddamn things to be in America? I'm really quite shocked because I can feel a lot of structure. I don't see it. You see it's on the front there? Take a look. A lot of structure and a lot of complexity, and it's a huge wine. And there's a tiny bit of heat. What's that? 14.5 alcohol, and the fruit is just coating it and not exposing it at all. And for a young wine with big tannins and big ripe fruit, I'm really impressed that the quality of fruit is so fresh and so bright that it covers those aspects in this wine. This is a wine that a lot of people would like. It's a New World style. That's right, the kangaroos were dropped into the vineyards in Italy, but that's okay, because once in a while that's a lot of fun too. And that's this kind of wine. It's got good structure. I think Spectator's right on board with this wine. I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to give it 91 points, but that's only a point, and who cares about points anyway? But it's a good wine, New World style for Italy. Definitely a wine like a traditionalist like Tom Choco will not like at all for what it's doing, but you can't deny the purity of the fruit and the quality, and it's a good bottle of wine. 60 bones, it is what it is. It's not It's not value, so I'm not really asking you to clip out the coupons and run to the store and buy it. But again, expense accounts are fun, and nice evenings, special evenings at restaurants that might not be too overwhelming with the restaurant list. And we're going to do a whole episode on restaurant lists. What are these guys smoking? I mean, it's a real disaster with the markups in restaurant wines. But that's a whole nother story. I just probably alienated another part of the wine industry. But good wine, 91 points. Let's move on. This is the Poggio al Tesoro from Bulgaria, which is where Guado Tasso and Sassicaia are from. And this is called the Dedicato a Walter 2003. Now, this is a very intriguing wine. Marlissa Allegrini from the great Allegrini estate made this wine in honor of her brother that has passed on. So Dedicato a Walter, her brother. I'm not sure if her last name has changed, so I don't really know him. But she made this wine for him, and it's really obviously very sweet. Only 250 cases produced of this wine, and very intriguing enough, 100% Cabernet Franc, which I can tell you, I don't think I've ever had 100% Cabernet Franc Super Tuscan before. So I'm excited about trying this wine. It's 68 US, 91 points Wine Spectator, and it's nice to see a tribute like that. I guess this would be a great time to talk about the board. Little brother-sister action. This apple represents the fact that my sister, Elizabeth Novello, is a Teacher of the Year in Garwood, and it's only her third. It is only her third year teaching, and it is a huge accomplishment to become Teacher of the Year in such a short period of time. It is unprecedented. The DNA is obviously running through my little sis. I'm super proud of her, and I wanted to give her a huge shout out of a congratulations. But then I was thinking, because that's what I do. It's like bloop. I don't get a light bulb. I get a cork. Bloop. And I'm like, I have an idea. Why don't we use this overwhelming power and family and community of the Vayner Nation and all those crazy Vayniacs to really surprise my little sis, to get her a little bit, shy, a little red in her cheeks. So I'm going to put her little email over here, which she's not going to like because she's much more DNA like my dad. Private. Don't tell anybody your name. But she'll have to get over it and or change her email. So what I want you to do is zap her. Do this for me. It would mean a lot because my sis would be so pumped. Being a teacher in this country is such not a big deal job. It doesn't get the promo. I wish we had shows like Sports Center for teachers because they're really the ones that deserve a whole lot. Not that I'm the hugest education man. But that being said, what they do for this country and for this world is such a major factor. And you know what? Giving a little recognition to a teacher who happens also to be my favorite little sis is something I'd like to do. And if you can help me out with that, send her a little congrats. I think she'll be really, really happy about that. So if you can do that, I would appreciate that. And obviously, really coincidental, because I did that sign before we even decided which wines, that this Walter, Dedicato a Walter, is done by a sister for her brother. Now, he passed on, and I don't want to do that, so, but ever. It's a weird little thing I got, but that's another story. Dark color. 100% Cab Franc. I've been staying away from this wine. I don't know if you can tell. I'm dying to see what kind of nose it has, because we know what the Cab Francs from the Loire Valley have. Let's see what's going on here. It's where terroir becomes such a big factor. Exactly. It smells nothing like Cab Franc at all. A lot of oak clearly going on here, and forgive me, but I'm going to have to do it. Little oak monster, but not even little, not the baby. I mean, this is a big-ass oak monster. Like the old oak monster was deep in the sea and everybody thought was dead, but was like 15,000 years old. That oak monster has just opened his door and looked at me, and I'm a little scared. I have to admit, I'm a tad bit intimidated. Blueberries coming through, obviously, as well. A little clove action. Don't put it on your tongue. It will numb it. And that's really about it. A little cedar box coming through as well. Really acting like a Syrah on the nose, much more than Cab Franc. And this is the fearfulness of doing blind tastings in today's wine world. Whereas 10 years ago, things were true to themselves. Now everybody's dressing up as somebody else. And that's nothing wrong with that. But that's what's going on in the wine world. Let's give it a whirl. Nice fruit complexity, very dry on the palate. Again, acting nothing like any Cab Franc I've ever had before. Again, because it's I don't know what it is really. Is this an '03? What vintage is this? Were we able? Yeah, this is a 2003. Very hot vintage in Europe, and I'm getting that very ripe fruit coming through. Same thing with the first Tuscan, the Luce. It's a solid bottle of wine. It's a fun roller coaster. It's good, blah blah blah. But this is where the build-up was really exciting. The whole brother and sister thing. But I got to do my job for you and for me. And this wine doesn't do it for me. I find it to be very one-dimensional. It's a New World fruit bomb. It's nice, but it breaks my heart. But I'm going to give this wine 87 points. It's just not good or very good for me. I mean, it's very simple. I think you can find $20 wines that deliver this in a heartbeat. Let's move on. This is the Antinori Tenuta Guada al Tasso 2000 vintage, which is very unheralded vintage in Italy, but it's turning out to be a nice vintage. You've been drinking some good stuff. Nice to have something a little bit older. $70 US, 93 points for our friends at the Wine Spectator. Let's give this a rinse and a whirl. Again, Guada al Tasso is from the Bulgari region, which is where Sassicaia is from and Ornellaia is from, and so it's been a really interesting area to watch over the last 7 to 10 years. It's gotten really hot. And what's really interesting about Super Tuscan wines is that they've really, by the way, how pimp is the 50-cent piece? I mean, maybe the most underrated coin of all time. Forget about coin. Might be the most underrated thing in the universe. The 50-cent piece, don't sleep on the skills. I like it. Just see? Another thing you can use your wristband for. Guada al Tasso and Super Tuscans, real interesting. They got feverishly hot with the 97 vintage. And so that was about 1999, 2000. Cash was good, stock market was good, internet boom. People were buying Super Tuscans like they had the cure inside. Like if you were going to pop a bottle, the genie was coming out and giving you everything you ever wanted. Good and bad, being dirty, good, whatever, money, cash. I mean, anything you wanted. That's the way people were consuming Super Tuscans. Then, boom. And I mean boom, like Emerald boom. It just was over. And now the demand is so quiet. Now, am I going to blame a movie came out of Hollywood called Sideways? I am. Because now people's attention, that were that kind of consumer, are on Pinot Noir. Isn't it intriguing to see, as we all move into different things, what happens and what kind of opportunities arise? Now, we don't have any that are here, but I'm going to have to do an episode on undervalued Super Tuscans because they no longer command the same price points, and we're starting to see some come out at $25, $32, $35, which is unheard of for really quality. And so we'll do that another time. Today we're focusing a little bit more on the big names with one intriguing one with the Cab Franc, but we're doing the Antinori Guada al Tasso, which was right at the cusp of that hotness. Again, I think it started in 95 vintage, and it's really an intriguing wine. Again, 30% Merlot, 60 Cab, and 10 Syrah. Let's give it a whirl. Now, this is totally different. This is where I get a little bit more excited for my own self. This is what I like. This is pickles covered in a little bit of vinegar with a little bit of raspberry jam. I'm a fan of this wine. I like this wine. On the nose, it's really intriguing. Yeah, this has got a little bit more of that dirtiness, and I like that. Like Christina Aguilera, old school. It's really intriguing. Lots of dirt. Virgin Bloody Mary. Sing it with me. With tons of Tabasco sauce. That's what's coming through in this wine with a great coat of like leather syrup. Burn that leather and turn it into like a syrup and then dip like a pickle in it. That's what this wine smells like, tastes like, excuse me. I'm a little excited. This is a wine that a lot of people wouldn't love because it's got those, acidic, peppery, dirty little flavors, but there's enough there's enough like black cherry soda coming through in this wine that's fruity enough to kind of offset some of those flavors. So it's a very tricky wine. I'd be curious to see who likes this and who doesn't. I'm a fan of this wine. I'm going 92 plus. The finish is still singing in my mouth. 70 bones, again, it's not a screamer, not a screaming value, but definitely worthwhile and definitely the best of the three so far, and real good wine. Yeah, this is good wine. Let's move on. This one you're going to know. Antinori Salaya. The king of kings, you know, the Kid Icarus of Super Tuscans, whatever that means. I had to use Kid Icarus. I just love that video game. Tough game. 130 US dollars. So it's not bashful. It's not shy. I mean, it's telling you I'm expensive. 93 points. Wine Spectator comes from the 2001 vintage, which is considered an extremely good vintage. And I'm excited about trying this. Anytime I have Celaya, as you can see, a little smirk is popping in. I mean, these have been great wines to me in the past. 1990 Celaya made me a man. I mean, that was like my virgin wine. That was the wine that really, one of the wines that really made me understand that there's a big difference between the super quality and just the very good wines. 97 Celaya, 99 Celaya, and now the 2001, which I've only had really right after release, so I'm excited to try it. Really nice color coming through. Playing a little hard to get, you know, not getting much on the nose at all, actually. Like if it was like a baby, like tight as a rock. Not much. Wow. I mean, there's virtually nothing going on. And this would be a good time, and I know the episode's been going long, but I gotta jump into it because it's happening right now. Talking about the shutdown phase, what I like to call the dummy phase. Wines sometimes, as they mature, and wines of this pedigree that can last for 30, 40 years, tend to sometimes go through these phases. If you taste great wines along the way, and a lot of the 95 Bordeaux's I've been tasting have gone through this, what I call dummy stage right now, where they're just closed. They just went to hibernation. And so sometimes these wines taste really great young for 2 or 3 years, and then you go to it in 4 or 5 or 6 years and you're expecting it to be even better, and you get nothing. And then you get disappointed and sad. Teardrops your eye. However, 10 to 15 years later, or at the 10-year mark, for example, they reopen with more charisma, with more nose, with more bouquet, with more flavors than you ever had before. And I'm just curious, running through my mind right now is how this wine is going to show at this state right now, because the nose is giving me zip. 0. Wow. Flavor profiles bring a little bit more to the table, so that's exciting. What Celaya does better than maybe any other Super Tuscan and puts itself in the first growth class is that it gives you a drinking experience. The silkiness, the pure and utter silkiness of this wine is outrageous. I mean, it's a very uncommon situation to have a wine that from beginning palate to mid palate to finish is so silky smooth. You know, I talk about riding the clouds sometimes in the past with silky wines. It's just completely coats your palate. Great raspberry, blueberry, and almost like a chocolate tart flavor coming through on the palate. I like the Asian spice, little cinnamon buds coming through on the finish, and just like a cinnamon stick, really, like when we did on the 148, coming through a little bit on the finish. But again, pretty tight. I'm getting a little charcoal dust, but lots of chocolate. Chocolate is really running through, again, with raspberry. Chocolate raspberry, cream almost is what comes to mind. That's a loud ring. It's a very polished wine. It's extremely elegant, and I like it. God, this wine is silky smooth. I like this wine a lot. It's got great tannin structure. I would tell you that this wine will last for another 12 to 15 years easily, and I think there's a lot more to come. I feel like I've just watched the first act of a classic play. Let's score this wine 93 points. It's got it going on. But again, when we talk about QPR at $130, there's other things out there. And so, if nothing else on today's episode that I've come to my own consideration is that these wines are really good. They're really solid. I was very happy with most of the efforts, but maybe not the greatest QPR still in the marketplace today. I think they're kind of going off their coattails from years ago. You know what I mean? There's a lot of actors and actresses doing that as well, so I guess it's okay if they do it in Hollywood, right? Anyway, part 2. You didn't think I'd forget. Eric saved my butt. He was pointing. The birthday cake. The birthday cake has to do with Brandon Warnke. Today is Brandon Warnke's birthday. Brandon is basically my right-hand man and pretty much the reason I can do this show. So if you like the show, you like Brandon because I've given him lots and lots of responsibilities to take care of at Wine Library to allow me this time to do the show. So today is his 31st birthday. Dave Winfield on his ass. So what I want you to do, here's his little link. He gets bashful too. He gets real red. It's fun. And he's like, oh, come on, why'd you do that? And I want him to do that to me. So, link over here, little happy birthday action. Listen, you don't have to do anything. I don't want anybody telling me that you guys do more for me than I do for you by sending out wishes to my sister or for the birthday. But if you're in the mood to be a good dude or a good dudette, that's so ridiculous, please do it because that would mean a lot to the people that are close to me in my life. Question of the day. Since I don't have one, I blanked, right? So what should I do, Aaron? You call it. On the spot. Question of the day. Who is the most profound influence on you when it comes to sports? Because you, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world, aren't we?